No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. 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 No, you never come back.
I will never forget it. Promise me you won't regret it. You and I were together, even though we both knew better. I will never forget it, even if we both knew better. You and I were together, even though we both knew better.
No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back to. No, you never come back. No, you never come back.
Welcome to On Top of the Covers, a weekly podcast by Orlove, dedicated to all of the creative visionaries, entrepreneurs, artists, makers, disruptors around the world. I'm Matt Gottesman, your host. I'm so grateful to be here, and I truly appreciate you guys tuning into this. This is my second podcast outside of Hustle Sold Separately, and just truly grateful for you guys tuning in. And on this podcast, On Top of the Covers, we're going to feature inspirational stories of people contributing to the culture of music. How they do it creatively, artistically, personally, and professionally. And when I say, the culture of music, it's because we're not industry, but we are definitely taking people who have this common bond we're all sharing within music, which pretty much globally we all do, and are making it into our work and in some way contributing to how people consume it, how people create it, how people run a business on it. There's lots of things in there, right? And so again, just wanted to queue up and let everybody know I'm really grateful you're here. Again, Matt Gottesman, your host, director of the Orlove brands as well. And we're really excited to be doing this. And today we have a phenomenal episode with an artist that we had connected with some time ago for the Under the Covers brand that we had started under Orlove, which was to find very talented multi-instrumentalists around the world and feature them by giving them an option of 5 different cover songs that they can choose, they choose one, they submit it as a video, and we've found very interesting success over the course of 1 year. And so now we've turned it into a podcast to talk to even more people within music and music related type endeavors, if you will. And so today I've got such an incredible guest. He's our first of From Under the Covers coming on the show, and one of our very early on shows. So I'm so happy to be doing this. Youngr, multi-talented musician, international artist. Just to give you a quick background, since he broke through with a self-released debut single, Out of My Stream, he's racked up over 100 million streams and played over 160 shows in 45 countries, including sold-out tours across Europe and North America. That takes time, that takes patience, that takes grit, within music. And it also takes a lot of dedication to the art and to the fan base, which we're going to talk about here today. Basically creating your own corner and fan base at this. How do we do that? How do we redefine our path away from the status quo, or away from how things are normally done and created, right, within a paradigm that's usually kind of fed to us? It's like, no, I think I want to own this route myself. And as I mentioned, very multi-talented musician. He truly stands out from the crowd with his unique performance style. You guys have to check out the video that we did where he covered Caribou's Never Come Back. And he's done one take live videos of dance floor friendly bootlegs, with his bootleg of the Temper Traps Sweet Disposition. That went viral and racked up over 15 million views in the first 2 weeks. Incredible. And he just really brings a refreshing perspective and change of pace to the table. And his debut album, Memories, epitomized that notion when it was released in early 2020. So be sure to check that out. And then this was followed by his bootleg mixtape Volume 1, which saw him rework classics in 2020, September of 2020. He's now just gearing up for a string of new releases in 2021, which we will talk about as well here on the podcast. But Youngr, I just wanted to thank you, man, for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Right, well, that was an epic intro, bro. I think we should call it the end there. That's awesome. What? Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, man. I mean, when you guys reached out to me, I'd watched a few of the videos like just pop up on my Instagram already, and these amazing covers. I think one was I can't remember. He was outside and kind of in some mountains or something. I remember. But anyway, it was incredible. And I was like, these guys are doing some cool things, because I love the fact that you're reaching out to musicians to give them a cover, and it wasn't just like a free for all, kind of a free for all, but it's like you give them the option. Yeah. So when you emailed me with the 5 tracks, I was like, oh, that's super interesting. It's not just like do a cover of this song or do anything you want. It's like, we think that you do an ultimate interpretation of these 5 tracks. And I think that is awesome, because also having I love when I'm given boundaries. There's something overwhelming when I want to start a song and I've got free for all. I can do anything. But when someone gave me the boundaries, I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to listen to each one, see what I can do. But I remember you said that I did the Caribou Never Come Back, but I originally wanted to do the Grimes one, just for the sole fact that she's married to Elon Musk, wasn't she? Or is she? And I wanted a ticket to Mars. That's basically why I wanted to do that bootleg. But then I quickly realized that wasn't a good enough reason to do a bootleg. So I switched to the Caribou, because that is just a wicked tune. That's a great band as well.
You nailed that. First of all, so grateful that you got what we were doing, because sometimes it's hard when you're innovating a new concept. You got it right away, because we were really feeling the concept from the very start. I'm like, this is cool. This is going to be epic. And we love when people get it right away. And we're okay when people don't. We're like, you'll get it later on. And it's like cryptocurrency or Napster. Right. When a Napster first came out, it's like, oh, what is this thing? I don't want to deal with this. You're like, you'll get it later on. It's all good. So, and the whole idea is to really pay attention to the artist, which, Matt Orlove does really well too. He's like, you know what? I envision this person, this artist being able to do any rendition of one of these and beyond, but it's cool to take the time to actually honor and respect the artist. Yes. Right. And say, I like your style. If I'm hearing you correctly and I'm watching your energy correctly, I would love to see what you can do with this, or this, or this. Right.
That's all.
And that's the process. So, because people have asked us, like, how do you do it? And we're like, we just pay attention to the artist.
Yeah, dude, that's so important because there's so many artists doing so many amazing things. And if you just sit down, like you just said, and you think, oh, what would they be able to do that's really good? I think that's a great jumping off point. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so grateful to have you here. And as I mentioned before the show, and this will be great for everybody listening, we're going to do something a little bit differently. We're going to obviously dive into the context of, creating your own corner and your fan base and what that's like, especially coming from an artist who has done so and is also managing the growth of his career. But also, I was telling you before the show, normally we save rapid fire questions. Most people save rapid fire questions for the end. No, again, back to our anti-status quo behavior. We're not going to do that. So we're going to start off with a few rapid fire questions, and then we're going to go into a little bit more about your background and then how we got here and so forth.
Yeah,
Okay. First question number one. If all music is gone, like it's leaving the planet, and you can only have 3 albums that you can listen to, only 3 albums for the rest of your life, what would they be?
All right. First one is, the band Simply Red?
Yes.
Simply Red. I'm just the biggest fan of them, and they were basically the Kickstarter of my musical love. So when I listen to those songs, I go, this is why I do music. It's that deep. So they've got an album called Picture Book. I'll take that album just because it means so much to me. I would take an album from Dr. Buzzard's original Savannah band, they're called, which is my dad's band and his uncle, my uncle, his brother. I'll take their first album. And the last album is real tough because, there's so many albums, but right from the top of my head, for sentimental reasons, it had to be Incubus, Morning View. Just because when I was becoming a drummer, again, the memories attached to it, I think that they just take me back to a time of innocence and a time of like why I love the drums, why I love music, what it did to me at that age. And I was thinking, I could take the Beatles, or I could take something that's a classic, but yeah, I appreciate the songs. They're beautiful. But for memories, if I'm living on an island, I want to have my memories of my life. You know what I mean? And I want them to be reignited. So that's my choice for sure.
Oof, such good choices too. And they should be highly individualized and customized to like the memory, right? So
right.
Okay, this next one is a little tough because I can think of like a million people for me. But if you can name an influential person, living or non-living, that if you could interact with them for one night, who would they be?
Right. Okay. So I thought about this, and like you said, there's a million people that you don't want to sit down with. But again, I'm trying to go real personalized, and he's not exactly famous, but he's very influential for me and a bunch of other DJs. But basically, it's my late uncle, right? My dad's bro. He was in the Dr. Buzzard Savannah band, and basically that music, when I listen to it, I'm like, how did you create this music? It's some of the greatest stuff I've ever heard. And now I understand, because my dad and his brother were the creators, so I understand my dad's half of it, right? He was the lyricist, he was the bassist, and I've been in the studio with him, I've written music with dad, so I kind of understand that side. But there's a whole side of my musical palette and influence that I've not been able to understand where or how or what it came from. Now I understand it came from, like, Dad's told me it came from like Big Band and Count Basie and all these really nice arrangements. But to sit down with him for a night at the grand piano and just be like, where would you take this F major and how would you get back to C major? What would you augment? What would you just to pick his brains on the piano and just find out. I don't know. I just got goosebumps thinking about the possibility of learning that from him. But yeah, that's what I'd say. His name is Stoney Browder Jr.
What was that?
Stoney Browder Jr.
I like it. Stoney Browder Jr.
Stoney Browder Jr. in the band Dr. Buzzard's original Savannah band.
Dr. Buzzard's original Savannah band.
Great name.
Band. Yeah, right?
You should check the first album out. It is.
I am. I'm taking a couple of notes actually while we talk. I'm like, ooh, I got it. Yeah. I mean, that's what I want to absorb. So, incredible. Okay, so in your opinion, what's the best music-focused film of all time for you?
Well, this one's interesting because when I'm like sitting down on Netflix or whatever, the music documentaries I actually shy away from, because I feel like I'm working. My brain's turned on, and I'm either comparing, or I'm thinking, what are they doing? What could I do out of that? So I'm like, I feel like I don't relax. Usually when I'm watching a movie, I want to relax. But when I put something on that's music centered, I start just like, my brain's like, tick, 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 tick.
Yes.
So, but when I read this question, when you told me about this question, I was watching the Coldplay documentary, Head Full of Stars, Head Full of
Yes.
Dreams. And it was really inspirational. That band, for some reason, gets loads of stick. I don't know why, but it became really uncool in England to not like Coldplay. It became became like not cool to like them. So I don't know why. I don't know what they did wrong, but I just think they're amazing musicians, and they're just such nice humans. And trying to do good and trying to spread positivity. And there's a lot I can relate to in their message. And I just love their music. I'm watching this thing. I was so inspired that after the documentary, I came up to my little studio and started making a little tune, started dancing around my room. And I just thought it was really great.
No, that's also, I totally feel you, by the way. When I watch, I know it's random, but when I watch the Defiant ones with Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, I mean, I like, first of all, the creativity is going through the roof, because I'm like, yes, I'm not crazy. It's the first thing I think of. I'm like,
yes,
thank God it's not just me, because you see how their mind works, like, and you see how two people come together, and how collaboration and collective creative intuition work, and the details matter, and how they think through all these different pieces, and how they bounce ideas off of it. It's very fluid in creativity. So it's not restricting it or conforming, and they just create together, and so
when Chris Martin writes a tune, and then he's like, yeah, take it into the band, and then we basically just work on it, and they're just so in sync with each other, the collaboration process. They know that they're going to take that piano and that vocal to this whole soundscape of a wonderful, it's just that's one thing I do miss being in Youngr, is the collaboration of creation. I mean, I do collaborate a lot with songwriters, but like a band, I've always grown up in bands. Me and my brother have always been in rock bands, and I've been the drummer, he was a guitarist, and we were all rocking out. And when you're in a room with a band and other creators, there is nothing like it. There's no comparison. When you're in the zone, you're like, yo, do that chord. You're like, yeah, let's do this. And it's like, whoa. So I do miss that when I'm producing just in my own room. Like, yeah, I might get a mirror next to my keyboard. Like, that's sick.
Yeah, well, it's an energy for sure, and it was cool. It was cool watching you do Caribou for Under the Covers with us, because I felt like you were channeling every instrumentalist, every person that would be in your band as you moved. Right. By the way, I put that on my personal at Matt Gottesman Instagram, and cool. That's in my stories. The amount of DMs that I got from that were like,
really?
Who is this guy? Like, how did he do that? I'm like, wait for like when he does goes to the drums, and like
drums, yeah.
Oh my God.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, so many people reached out to me on that. But yeah, so it's interesting whether you're with the band channeling the creativity, or in that case, you were really just,
but I think the reason why I've got that energy from other musicians, the other musicians, like you said, it looks like I'm channeling them. I think it's because I've been in bands for so long, for 10 years of my life, that I know what that musician would play. And I know if I was the band leader, that's what I would tell the keyboard player to play. That's what I'd tell the bassist to play. So I'm basically just doing that, just being the band leader of myself, trying to, just sit in the roles of all the things. Because the last band I was in before Youngr was a 12-piece, like funk pop calypso thing, and I was just the front man / band leader, kind of taking off like James Brown and those kind of things. And and I would just, I'd write the parts and give them to the players, and there's nothing. I just love it. I love it. So I'm just trying to channel that in Youngr.
Incredible. And you do.
Yeah, man.
All right. Final question. Then we're gonna jump into the background a little bit more. What's an important book? Doesn't have to necessarily be music, but what's an important music, podcast, or audible that has helped you navigate your creativity and passion? And there's a lot of great choices out there.
There are. I mean, the whole of last year, the Russell Brand and Joe Rogan podcast they were just huge.
Perfect.
Like, I could just put them on and they'd inspire me, or they'd open my mind up to something. And it was also in the times that I was doing I was experimenting with mushrooms and hallucinogenics and opening my mind, microdose into the possibilities of just like releasing the cages that your mind's in a little bit. And there's a lot of podcasts with that, Joe Rogan, and it was just fun. It was like a nice year of just guiding through this new realm of wonderfulness, and the turnaround of Russell Brand as well is just incredible. I just love watching him and listening to him talk. He's awesome.
Yeah, watching him expand into really, I think, a place he always was, but just kind of started to have a more of an internal knowing of himself that expanded everything. And two great choices, as I mentioned before. Before that's so keen that you said that. And listen, the mushroom journey, I had it in many years. And then I did the tea with the Johns Hopkins study based on what Joe Rogan talked about.
Yeah. Cool, right?
I mean, it was a 6-hour run, 6:30 in the morning till 12:30 at noon.
Nice.
Not at noon, just past noon. And wow. I mean, the most expansive, like heart opening. Of course, I went with the right intention, and the Johns Hopkins study has you do a month long of intention. You choose one intention, and then you work on all kinds of articles, research around that intention, and then you do ice baths every Sunday to ground yourself in the breath. And that's a conversation maybe for offline.
It's amazing though. It's very eye-opening. But the one thing, the last thing that really inspired me was this book called Big Magic by Elizabeth. God damn it, I forgot her name. Gilbert. Is it Gilbert? Magic.
It could be Elizabeth Gilbert. Let's see.
Google there.
Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert. You called it.
Boom. Yeah. So I couldn't put it down. The way she spoke about music and the way creativity was just so refreshing. It was really, really conversational. And there was just one great thing of like when she said, "It's okay. Whatever you create, it's okay because that's the best you could do at that point. Never look back and think that was shit or I could do." There's like, no, that was the best I could do at that point in my life. Move on and let's create something new, And I just loved reading that because it was like, it's so true. You should never kick yourself down or try and get something too perfect. Just do what the best you can do, release it, move on.
Yeah, and not having an attachment to it, right? Because it allows us to expand. I mean, I've been writing for 20 years, openly for 8. And it wasn't until I created the HDF magazine. I'm like, I'm just going to say a few things and see where it goes. And I just kept expanding on it. I didn't expect hundreds of thousands of people to follow along. But it was interesting, which is going to cue up kind of to the conversation we're going to talk about today. But it's interesting when we create from the place that at that moment, this is just what makes sense. But our creativity can't really expand until we actually launch something and have a relationship with releasing it to the world. What is happening between us and the world and the energy of what we created at that moment, to your point about Elizabeth Gilbert, like, hey, whatever we create, it's okay. At that moment, that's what it is in this time.
Yeah.
And we're going to just expand from there based off of the energy that's created from it. And
it's mad when a release day is coming up and I know there's a tune coming out on the morning of the release. I've listened to the song probably 1,000 times mixing it, right? So I'm fed up with it anyway. But on the morning of the release, I will know before I've even heard it, I'll wake up and I'll know if it's the right decision or not. I just have a feeling. I'm like, oh, some days I wake up and go, oh, that was the wrong tune to put out. God damn it. Or some days I go, oh, this feels like a good day. This is the right tune. Let's go. And you'd never know that. And you'd never know which way to turn, which way to pivot. If you should, do a little shimmy and try a different direction if you never released that thing. So I tell a lot of new musicians and new producers that if you got things, put it out, even if it's on SoundCloud.
Matt Orlove and we have this conversation all the time about you just never really know what takes. Sometimes as an artist, right, or a content creator, you create something and you're like, ooh, I don't know how this is going to really do. Well, click launch and it kabooms, right? Like you're just like, really that? And then there's other things you're like, I love this. This is me. This is everything. And it's like crickets. Like, is anybody else enjoying this but me? Nobody? Like, okay, well, I still enjoy it because it'll still feel as my best work, but it's so funny. You can't predict what sometimes will take, and that's okay too.
Yeah, it is. They're both okay. But that's funny, man. That's the story of my life. This is the best shit I've ever done. Press go, and it's like just tumbleweeds.
Yeah, like, is this thing on? Is this thing on? I thought I was in my zone on that one. No, no,
yeah.
Wrong time of the day. Maybe next time at night. Got it.
Oh shit, man. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, let's dive into this a little bit here with you. You've got this amazing fan base and audience that you've created. And, you know, I love the fact that we talked a little bit about energy and vibe and positivity and, you know, feeling through things as well. The quick rundown, how do we get here? How did you, because you started to mention a little bit about your past within music and the band and whatnot. How long you've been doing this?
Yeah.
What's the bio that my bio didn't do justice? What's that?
Yeah, right. Well, it'd be too long for your bio. I feel like I've done music for so long now that it's just in my bones. But so I mean, I learned piano when my dad forced me to have piano lessons when I was about 9. So he was like, just start learning early. I used to hate it, but he was like, no, stick with it, stick with it. I'm so glad I did. But then I fell in love with the drums when I was 11 or 10, 11. I remember sitting at sound check, listening to the drummer or going to shows, and I just had a fantasy with it. They were so loud and so much energy coming off them, you know, and just one guy hitting all those things or girl. It was awesome. So that's when my love came for music with the drums. And then started listening to records. And then I started in a Red Hot Chili Peppers covers band with my brother.
Nice. I can see that. I actually can see that.
Yeah, man. I was rocking all those Chad Smith grooves and I was just loving it. And then, you know, Incubus came around and we started writing music as a band when I was about 14. And then basically we started gigging around 14, 15, and I couldn't get into some of the venues because I was too young in Manchester. So they had to like open up the bathroom windows at the back and sneak me in to do the show. And then because I looked like a 14-year-old. I wasn't one of those 14-year-olds that looked 20. I looked like a young 14, you know? So I used to sneak in, do the gig and run out. I was in loads of emo bands and punk bands and funk and rock bands. And it was just the love of music. It just happened so early. And then I think my mum bought me like a Casio keyboard for my home bedroom when I was about 14. And my dad got me a little 8-track recorder. And I just started recording on that, writing my own songs when I was 14. And then I went off to Liverpool. Have you heard of LIPA? It's a university it's Liverpool Institution of Performing Arts.
I haven't, no.
It's like funded by Paul McCartney. He's like a patron of it. And it's just a bunch of creative people that come to a place in Liverpool and just, it's awesome. It's music, dance, art, you know, management. It's all this. This is where I met my manager actually. And I went there, met a bunch of people, met some singers, and I started a band called Picture Book, named after my favorite album by Simply Red. And we had some success. We had a cool single. You know, I think there was a bit of a collab with Deadmau5 at the time back in the day with a singer. And yeah, we did a bunch of cool things. And then she was like, this life isn't for me. And back then I was like, what do you mean, man? We're never going to be famous. We're just going to be fucking sick. And she was like, no, she was Scandinavian. She was like, I just want to go back home and live with the sheep on the mountains. And I was furious at the time, but now I'm old. I'm like, damn, she had it right. She knew. She really listened to what her body wanted. You know, she was really spiritual. And in my old age, in my later years, I realized that fame and success is not the key to happiness. You know, you've got to follow whatever it is your body's telling you to do. Anyway, I sidetracked. Picture Book, that turned into the big 12-piece band with my bro, and we were playing loads of festivals and doing loads of things. And it was called Stoney Browder Jr., that band, after my uncle, because we were like, how do we honor him? So that did that. And then me and my brother basically had been making music since 14 to 25. But I was always produced. My middle name is Youngr, with the E. So I'd always been like making beats when I first got Cubase in uni, and I was making a few hip hop beats, and I was really inspired by Pharrell, Justin Timberlake, Timberland. Loved all those productions. I was like, this is cool. So I started making my own beats, and I had my pseudonym, my name Youngr, and it was just on the iTunes file, whatever. It was just the name I called it, my beats. And then I got Ableton Live. My brother's always the forward thinker of us too. He's always like, dude, we got to move to London. Dude, we got to get Ableton. We got to get this new synth. And I'm always the guy going, no, I kind of like it in Liverpool. No, I like my old pro. He's like, bro, trust me, man. Do this. And, you know, I really, really respect him for that, because he's always trying to think, you know, out of the box. And But so I got Ableton, and it's got a new feature where you can loop clips and loop things on the fly. So I randomly found an a cappella of Calvin Harris Flashback. This is like a flashback. It's like a tune brought out in 2000 something. It was wicked. One night after a gig, because I used to play drums in bars and clubs in Liverpool from like 9 p.m. till 3 a.m. for 50 quid, you know, in your back pocket. Loads of girls' attention, loads of free drinks. It was an amazing time. 18 to 21, playing so many weddings and parties and birthdays, and I loved it. And then one night after one of those shows, I went back to my studio in Liverpool, loaded up the thing, and I was like, what if I try and make a song in 3 minutes, looping like putting the vocal on, and then just looping tracks until I make a drop, and the whole thing without pressing stop. One take, one camera. Let me see. I borrowed my stepdad's old camcorder, put it on a book of shelves, like a shelf of books, and I angled it towards me, and like it's 3 a.m, and I didn't know really what I was doing. And I put that on my personal Facebook, on my Dario Darnell Facebook. And it was actually called Dario Darnell's Dreamy Drum Sessions.
Nice, right? That early on.
Yeah, that was what I first called it, and it just blew up on my personal Facebook. It went crazy. I was like, "Oh shit, there's something in this. People seem to like me doing all these things," and I was like, "Okay." So, and then the coordinator of the Coca-Cola, the Olympics, the Coca-Cola, they sponsor it. He watched the video and he's like, "How would you like to come on stage and do the torch relay in 6 major cities in the UK, the torch relay around the UK?" And I was like, hell yeah, that sounds amazing. So at the time I was in Picture Book. So I was like, bro, let's do this concept. So I made it Picture Book. I think there's still some stuff on YouTube. If you search Picture Book, Coca-Cola torch relays. And we played in Hyde Park in front of like 80,000 people doing this rework of Mark Ronson and Katie B's Anywhere in the World, the song was called. And that's kind of the start. And then Picture Book when the single left, me and my bro tried to do a few things, got a bit of success. And then I just started to go, okay, there's something in this solo thing. I'm going to see where I can take this. So I started doing loads of bootlegs, loads of things. And I did a couple of like Pharrell mashups and blah, blah, blah. And it just started to pick up. And I was like, why not use the name Youngr? And then my manager that I'd known, who was managing Picture Book, he was like, dude, why don't we just try this solo thing? Because why don't we give Picture Book a bit of a rest? And I was like, all right. So when I was 26, I released Disappear, September Sun, and then Out My System was the third single, who I wrote with a great friend, Tim Woodcock, who's an amazing songwriter. And because it's funny, the first 2 songs, Disappear and September Sun, you know, they were cool, they were vibey, they had a nice looping aspect, but they weren't like, the song wasn't solid. So I remember my manager was like, we need to get a solid song plus this concept, and we've got something magic here. So that's when we took the magic of the looping and the one take and whatever I have in me that needs to come out, plus a solid pop song equaled Out My System. And that was the start of everything. 26, Youngr, let's go. That was the journey.
I love it. And it's still a baby in the journey. You know what I mean? When you think about it, right? It's like we get finally to a point and we're like, oh, now it begins even more so to the next level, right? Yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
I was listening. I was taking a couple of notes of some things that you were saying that it was really, really interesting. First of all, I love that you learned earlier on about fame and success, because it's sort of like, you know, it happens, right? I think it's mostly because, well, for me, it was earlier on, it was like, oh, because I want the world to see the art. I want the world to see all these things. Like I'm so happy about it. And I want what I equated the two, that they were together, until I got around some really, really great people who I noticed that they had a different definition of success, doing very well. Right. In fact, in a lot of ways, better than the people who are noticed all over the world and playing even higher, right? And so I started to rethink what success meant to me, and it definitely did not involve fame. I was like, you know what? I just want to do what I do, and I'll be of service publicly. That's great, but I want a private life, and I want a life in general. And so I love that you said that. And then I love when you were saying you made a song in like 3 minutes and put in the loops, and then you launched it online. Yeah. This kind of goes back to your point about Elizabeth Gilbert's book, but like you were having a creative moment, and this might work moment. I think Seth Godin had a book like This Might Work, something like that. And it's like you put it out, and all of a sudden, it's like that took you like, huh, you guys like that you like that? All right. I can keep going with it. Right.
Yeah. It was crazy. I didn't know if it was a piece of trash or not. Honestly, I was like, I when I pressed upload on that, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And I just love that. Just being like, and same without my system. I just thought that was another, like a B-side. When we put that up, just people are nuts. So I was like, oh, I could give you more of this.
Well, because I think you're in a no constraint place where it's just about channeling the art, and from a very highly intuitive place where this is not there, this is, and so is like the gut core instinct, that the talent that we came into this world with, our soul came in with. And I feel like that's what happens, right? And that's why we're surprised sometimes. We're like, that's what you guys wanted? Like, was it that simple?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The gut is everything, man. The gut is, there's some research coming out about the gut, man. Yes. There's more than we think it is, isn't it? More than we think it is. We got to protect those microbiomes, man.
Absolutely. Well, it's been interesting because from everything from like the breath work to doing a lot of spiritual groundwork and prayer, and understanding like how far we can actually really go into our core, because this is kind of, this is kind of messing with us when we think from a very earthly place. But we're a soul having a human experience. We're not humans having a soulful experience. We're a soul that came in, right?
Yeah, I think the brain's just trying to like keep us alive. It's just trying to stop us from getting burnt and stop us from cutting our finger off and just reproduce and, do this and do that. Right. But when you stop, meditate and get down to it, it's like, ooh, this is beautiful. What's going on in here? Do you do the Wim Hof? Have you checked him out?
I've done Wim Hof a couple times. It's funny. I spent last week on a retreat in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Georgia, and a lot of it was heart-based meditation with breath work. And in expanding this, not to get all crazy, but like in the astral, like how do we kind of remove ourselves from this physical self, if you will, and get into a state where if we can breathe up through the heart, and breathe out through it, opening this up, because anytime there's an attachment or an ego or excuse me, an attachment or a fear or anything, it's coming from the lower chakras, from the ego. This is right. When this is connected to the gut and the instinct, like it's whatever. Like we put limiting. I don't want to use the word beliefs, but or narrative or constrictions or boundaries to a physical world. And that's not what's happening. We're actually creating everything in real time, which is and I firmly believe that, our soul kind of wrote the whole blueprint before we came here. And it's like, I'm going to put everything in place to remind you of who you are. And the tricky thing is you created it. So when you see the contrast, just know you created it. So now when I see interactions, I'm like, did I put you there? I feel like I put you there.
Yeah.
Like, I think I put you as a role, right? Like, what am I learning from this right now?
What did you think? What did you think of the movie Souls on Disney?
I liked it. I thought it was a great starting conversation for the masses as a whole. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because
it's the first time, commercially. It's the first time commercially they've done that, haven't they? They've even tapped on it, really.
Yes. I feel like it opened up the conversation of, is there something else going on? And I wanted to look at everybody and go, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I thought it was really great to kind of help people understand the concept of the soul traveling, and that it in my opinion has more than one lifetime, many lifetimes, as it continues to accelerate and ascend. And how does it do that? It learns. How does it learn? On here on earth, right? And when we can get more present and we can kind of start to understand a little bit more about it's not so much what we restrict ourselves, but how we expand on how we play for what's to come, the future, if you will. Dude. But in a present state.
Dude. Yeah, I'm with it, man. I am with it.
Which, I mean, so
much.
And I feel like, the fact that we're having these conversations and just in general, it's great that you brought up kind of how the launch of Youngr as a solo Your audience really takes to you. We took to you right away. I remember when Maddie found you and he was like, "You gotta see this guy," and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, I think he actually known about you for a while. He's like, "This person,"
Okay,
and I saw him like, oof. Like it was just like it hit my soul. And so he was like, these are the ones I want to send to him. I'm like, I dig. And so, but because we felt it, it's obvious that your fan base also felt it. So like, I'm curious how that has been for you, and I would love for you to expand on growing the fan base from zero, because I always have to tell everybody we all start from zero, and how that's been in cultivating that relationship.
Oh man, it's a mad one. I mean, I absolutely love my fans. I love the people who interact. I'm so grateful for that. I don't think they realize how grateful I am for them listening to my music and watching it and liking it and commenting and telling me that they love it. It's like, damn, I don't want to say it keeps me going, because I think music itself keeps me going, but it gives me that extra little, dude, this is good, man. Don't doubt yourself. If you ever do, it's good. Just fucking do what you want to do. So they do give you a little booster, and it's been a long process building that, because you said we start from zero. So when I was putting out those first singles and first videos, I guess they started as friends, and those friends would share it. And then eventually it would go out of my circle, and there would be people I don't know coming to shows, and the people I don't know sharing my videos. And that's when I'm like, oh, there's something going on here. If there's someone that I don't know from so many removed friends that are sharing my videos and liking it, then damn, this might be something interesting. And it's funny because I've been in so many bands before. This pickup never really happened with those things. It felt more like an uphill struggle, which means it just must have been my journey. It must have been what I needed to go through to get to where I am and wherever I'm going. But from the Amp System and Sweet Disposition moment, that's when most of my guys came on. But yeah, a lot of people liked it for that song only, and then the next song they dropped off. And same with the bootlegs, they like Sweet Disposition. And then when I did some, and that's cool, man. I'm cool that if you wanted to just ride on my boat for like one stop, that's cool. But there's some people that have been there from the beginning that it's just incredible. And I don't feel, there's always that fear when you want to push the boundaries and try a new sound or try a new angle, and there's always a fear of, is this going to alienate the fans? Is this going to, and it's a tough one, because you got to keep in what made you. I think that's there already, but I think you do have to keep pushing the boundaries, and those fans that have been there from the beginning will most probably be down with it. They'll be like, this is cool, man. I've had 5 years or 6 years of this Youngr. I'm cool to see you move into a new place. And that's what I love about this fan base that I have at the moment. I think they're really open-minded and just lovely people.
I got chills, which to me are always signals. I got chills in different things that you were saying. And, to give you kind of some of the notes that I was taking. First of all, it's interesting when you're bringing up about the people giving you a little bit of a booster. A lot of times people don't realize that, especially, fans and followers and subscribers, they look at us and go, oh, they got it all together. They're feeling it. They're this. Who am I to reach out? And I'm always like, you're my lifeline, because I'm like, is this thing on? And the feedback fuels me, because if I didn't have that two-way relationship, I'd be like, well, yeah, I mean, this feels good, but I want to feel in relationship to the people that are consuming it. I want to know what it means to them just the same. And so when they let us know, especially on days when you're like, why did I get into this? Like, but you're so far in, you're never going back. Like I wouldn't even ever stop. And now I'm actually more of a flow than ever, but it's like, but you have those days and just like that, somebody chimes in like, I just want you to know, I was having the roughest day. This happened. And I read this, everything changed around. Like, they give you this information and you're like, I thank you. I got it. Yeah. Noted. Thank you. Right. I got it. I got the message. Okay. So in other words, stay in your zone and your lane and your path. And then, the other interesting thing you brought up about, there was more resistance when it was with, when you were doing some other things. Well, I use the word resistance. There was more like, it felt like an uphill battle. Yeah, that's why we have to constantly keep kind of redefining our path a little bit, or optimizing our path, because when there's resistance, it's a sign. I need to change something
Yeah.
about my approach, even though, we lose a couple people along the way. But then everything opened right back up for you. And then when you're talking about, we do worry about a little bit, I don't want to alienate the fans, but I'm growing too. And in order to grow, I want to do what made me, like you said, and to have to keep pushing these boundaries. And interestingly enough, and you're absolutely right, some people will come on for a little while and they'll dip off and they got what they got out of it. I also found that sometimes they come back later on. Interestingly enough, right? They're like, I need your vibe again. I'm like, come on. And plus, we're expanding, right? So I've also noticed that I love the day ones, the people who are like, they even saw something sometimes in us, the vision of us, in their eyes, that maybe because we're so in it, we haven't even grown into yet. So I've had some people recently, right? I've had people recently reach out and they're like, I knew it. Like, I knew it. This is what I was waiting for. And I'm like, interesting. I'm like, well, it took me a minute. I'm evolving. I'm a soul having a human experience, and the vision takes time. But so it's interesting sometimes what the fans that see in us, and they couldn't even explain it if they wanted to all those years ago either, but they see a vision of us for them, and they're just waiting for that. They're constantly waiting for that evolution of you.
It's amazing. That's a wonderful, wonderful way to put it. I couldn't put it any better. I love it.
I mean, what have you noticed? And I know we kind of started to touch a little bit on this, where some pieces you put out, you're like, oh, this might do amazing. This might do, I don't know. I mean, what are some of the biggest takeaways that you think you've learned from, putting your music out in front of the world audience? I mean, hundreds of millions, you're at 100 million streams plus, right? Or that was just for one year?
I think combined, there's a lot of streams. I don't know where they come from, but I'm grateful for them. And what have I learned? I think I've learned really just to do what you feel like you should do. I mean, it sounds cliche, but
it's true.
When I was on a big major label, I sometimes would go to what the suits were telling me, and what the A&R guys are saying. And I was like, oh, well, they've released big records before, so maybe they know something I don't know. They don't. No one knows anything.
No
one knows anything. So just listen to your gut and go with that, because the only person you should have to blame if something doesn't go wrong is yourself. You don't want to have to blame other people. You should only be able to blame yourself, because you should, every creative decision, I feel like you should be behind it. You should be like, I want this to happen. And, that makes, when it works, so much better. And when it doesn't, so much harder, but it makes you learn. It makes you, grow and learn from it. Whereas if someone else has made decisions from you, you'll just go, oh, well, it was their fault. I'll just try it again. And I don't feel like you're learning a lot there. And there was a big period of Youngr's releasing bits. I still like the music, but there's a few songs where I listen and go, I wouldn't have released that knowing what I know now. But like Elizabeth Gilbert said, it was the best I could do, and it was what I was doing, and it's the journey. So I don't want to regret anything, but I definitely learned that, especially with labels, is to go in there with as much of a finished product as you can. And just be like, this is my sound, this is my vision. I'd love for you to help me in some way. Let's go. Instead of, I've got a few songs, I'm up for trying this and trying that, because if you don't have a strong head, you can get taken off on the road. And it's treacherous. It's a treacherous path to navigate the music industry.
I think every would-be artist listening right now should take and not just artists in music, in anything, in today's modern way of owning your path. I think they should take note of what you just said, because what happens when you rely on yourself, and you have clarity, then you have direction and you have honesty. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is my vision. I know exactly what I need. I can delegate what I understand and what I need to make this vision come true. Versus, like you said, if you're relying on these labels to basically say, well, first of all, you're right. They don't know what they're doing. It's like venture capital firms. Like, they invest in like 100 companies and like 94% of them fail. I'm like, damn, but they're waiting for like that one big hit. I'm like, to me, I'm like, that's not.
they're using maths. They're going, okay, this songwriter worked with that songwriter and that producer that. So if we put them all together, then the chances are it's a great thing. But sometimes that's not the case. It's
Right.
just
Well, and then they hedge,
better
right? Well, and then they try,
right.
they try to hedge, you know, well, we know that this was successful over here. So the strategy would be like, Youngr, you should try to do something just like this because that'll get you successful. And it's like, well, that's not really a strategy at all. Like, that's not even my authenticity. And luckily, because of the age of the internet, you know, Naval said this on Joe Rogan's podcast in 2019, and I was reading his book. I repeatedly read his book because he talks about like we're living in the age of leverage and the information age, and it overtaking the industrial age. Thank God, because we know what happened from that. So, but clearly we're seeing a revolution, if you will. But this information age allows like, hey, listen, it allows for more accountability. If you, whatever it is that you want to create for yourself, you know, relying on, in this case in music, on a label to make decisions that are best for you, it'll never be the same as relying on yourself. It won't be, because that's your journey while you're here on earth is, what do I need? What do I want to do? What changes can I make? What do I need to, where do I need to pivot? What approaches need to change? All of these things. So I thought it was spot on what you were saying. And then you also get your creative control. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't work and it sucks, but it's way better than not having the control over your destiny, over your creativity and your free will. Right.
Yeah. I'll take that over any day over
the alternative, right? Yeah, I know we will. We won't talk about the dark side, the shadow work. So, question. So, what do you have like coming up? What, I know you were talking about some new music and whatnot, and what's going on there.
Yeah, well, so I was in Sweden from September. My lease ran up, and my dad's got a house and a studio over there. So I was like, damn, I'm just gonna go there and chill while there's no gigs, because I wanted to live there for ages. It's this beautiful lake house, and it's amazing. And it's got a pool table and bloody ping pong. I'm very lucky to have that in my life. So I loaded my studio up, I loaded a van, and I drove my girlfriend, and we just drove through to France, through Germany, through Belgium, through Denmark, and got to Sweden. 22-hour drive. It was an amazing road trip. Loaded up my stuff, and I just loaded everything into the house and set up a studio. And I just woke up in the morning in this beautiful house every day and just walked downstairs in my dressing gown, sat on the piano and just wrote tunes every day and just produced tunes. It was heavenly. It was amazing. And I feel like I completely avoided the whole coronavirus thing, because Sweden had that way of dealing with it. It was just like, don't go out. There were no restrictions.
Right.
So it was crazy. It felt like the whole world was going nuts, but Sweden was like, nah, it's all good. But I've heard now that they've got more restrictions. But it was a crazy, like, if I look back at that time, which is only like 2 months ago, it was like a dream. It feels like I was dreaming, because it was so bliss and so wonderful and so not what I hear on the news. And yeah, it just about 20, 25 songs and productions came out of there, and the Caribou bootleg, and the All I Want to Do cover, and the Steelers Wheel Stuck in the Middle with You bootleg, and all these things, these creative things came out of there, and they're amazing. And my studio is still there. So in Christmas, I came back to see my mum in Manchester, and that's when the crazy lockdown happened, and all flights are cancelled back to Sweden. So I've moved now to another house in Wales. I'm on a 6-month let now, by the beach and 5 minutes to the beach, which is just beautiful. With my girlfriend and my sausage dog, and I'm having the best time. I've got a tiny little like bedroom setup, but it's all I need. I got a couple of speakers, but I'm basically now finishing the songs I wrote in Sweden. So it was really lucky the way my journey's happened. It's almost like it was meant to be. I was meant to write all these songs, and now I'm meant to just be listening to them, choosing which ones to finish. And I've got a tune called Brothers and Sisters coming out on the 5th of March. That's the first originals release, featuring a guy called Brightsparks. We actually wrote the tune on Zoom in Sweden. It was a writing session, and we met each other, and he just had this great hook, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. It's about the time that we're in now, brothers and sisters. We're all together, we're all one. There's no point in being against each other, yada, yada, yada. But I'm really excited for that to come out. And just before this call, I was finishing the mix on a tune called Boy from Manchester, which is going to come out, I think, next. And it's funny, I was listening to Chris Martin, he was on the movie, the documentary, and he was saying, he was jumping up and down in the studio going, I don't know if anybody's going to like this, but this is making me feel amazing. And I was like, I know that feeling. I had it about 2 hours ago. I was literally jumping up and down here when the drop came, going, oh, this feels great. And I know that it's going to make someone else feel great. Even as one person, I want them to feel what I felt. So I'm really excited about that. And another tune called Mama Raised No Fool, which is really cool, just about how amazing my mum is. Because, I think she needs some respect. She's got loads of respect, but, I just feel like mums are amazing. And I wanted to write that in a song. So they're the next 3 singles, and I'm really excited about new music because I've done so many bootlegs. So I'm really excited to put my own emotions and stories into the world again.
No, it's that's incredible. Definitely massive respect to the moms for sure.
Yeah, right.
They're our life force. What I thought was really cool listening to all that, especially when you intuitively knew what you needed to do back in like September. And again, like, isn't it interesting when we tap into our intuition that will guide us? It's like, I'm going to go here for a little while. And then the moment you were there, it's like all in, like the creativity just started to flow. Like you knew instinctively what was needed, even at a very subconscious level. Like, yeah, I think we're going to go over here for a little bit and we'll see what happens, and then you do it. And it's like freedom and liberating and, for your work. And I love when you were saying about, when you're really like, no, I love this. Like, this feels good for me. And if it impacts you one person, but there's something that goes on there energetically it's always interesting when I worked with big brands back in the day, they're like, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know? I'm like, it's a knowing, it's an intuitive thing. Like you're feeling something inside, and then that's what makes good content. That's what makes good brand. That's what makes a good, art, is because when you're channeling that through it, the people feel you on the other end. They'd be like, oh, like, what is that? You're like, it's that. That's what you're feeling. That,
that what I was feeling jumping around in my bedroom. Exactly. And that is the thing that I was missing on a few of those major label releases. I was missing that. I can't wait for someone to hear this. I was hearing it going, well, they've said it's going to be a hit on radio, so maybe I should release it. Restraint. No one. Right. No one can hear that. No one's going to feel anything from that, So I'm just grateful to have this knowledge of, well, whatever. I'm rambling now.
No. I actually, it's funny. I think that was one of the, this whole podcast was valuable. That's actually a very, very interesting thing that you just said. When we are forced to think and restrain to like, well, this is what the audience wants and this is what gets a hit, and we're removing the very essence of what makes something go viral in the first place. Yes, of course, you can reproduce virality, and that's what the music industry has done long before the algorithms have done that with tech. But it's not real. It's not the real energy. And I think that like you bring up a very good point. Once we start adding those attachments and those outcomes, expectations, and all these things, the energy isn't going to be felt the same. So of course, like, why didn't I do as well? Well, the audience is feeling something different than who you really are, so there becomes a disconnect sometimes. And they still dig you, of course, because they're gonna be like, I still dig Youngr, I still dig Matt, whatever. But there's like. What was that one piece that you did randomly on the internet years ago, unfiltered, without really, being mastered down? And you're like, that's the thing, because they felt you at a very energetic level, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I always go on about how The Sweet Disposition is probably my most listened song. And I'm not a mix engineer. I mixed that song, and the hi-hats, there were no hi-hat mics. So the hi-hat mics you're hearing is from the camera's microphone. That was the only way I could mix, and it's mixed in, and it sounds amazing, and it is what it is because everything fits together. And now, when we came to release that song, Island made me get a proper version done. Probably cost them 10 grand for this ad producer and mix engineer. Everyone messages me and goes, "Why isn't it the same version, dude? Why did you go and fuck with the drums?" And I'm like, why did I let them do that? That's my fault. I can't blame anybody else other than me for going, I should have just gone, no, release the exact audio, put that on Spotify because that's the thing people like. But for some reason, you think because it's on Spotify, it needs to be spend 10 grand on it. Let's spend money on a mix because you don't need it. If it works. Don't fuck with something that works.
Amen. That is the ultimate lesson right there. If it ain't broke, don't fix.
Yeah,
where now you put it very succinctly, very well. Where can everybody find you online?
You can find me Instagram is Youngr without the E _music. Facebook, I think, is just that's the same thing. I'm not sure what Facebook is. Twitter's just Youngr. I've tried TikTok. Can't do it, man. I know.
I know.
I tried. I just feel like the old dude at a disco, and I just feel a bit pervy. And I'm like, can't be in here. I'm leaving.
And it's a whole other a dedication to content on a whole other level. Which I mean, we do aspects of that, but. I mean, this is already a marathon.
I know. I don't need one more thing because it's not like I can use the same content. I feel like TikTok works well when you create tailored content for that platform. And that would just take me sitting down for a few hours and working it out. But I don't. Maybe I will one day. Maybe by the time I'm ready for it, it'll be out of date.
Right, exactly. Everybody in their time. I got on Instagram when it's like the way TikTok is now. I'm one of the newer users, like 2013-ish. So like I did benefit from that. I get the idea of like, but even then it was still very simple. The content, as you know, is getting more and more involved, which is great. Again, we have to sort of pick and choose the stages of our marathon because I don't need to add extra hills to climb, but
I know.
But it could eventually that hill flatten out. And the entry point might just be now's the timing, right? In anything in the marathon. So
I'll never forget when Sweet Disposition came out. The Instagram was just pictures, I think, and I could only do pictures. And then Facebook was where the video blew up. And now it's hard making anything go viral on Facebook now without advertising, without putting money behind it. They've changed the algorithms, man. So it's tough. It's tough out there.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. And that's okay. Cause, the beautiful part is, yes, algorithms are messing with everybody, but humans are still humans and behavior human behavior is always going to continuously change, at a earthly level. And what happens is they'll like, well, I'll adapt over here. Well, I'll adapt over there. And so in a lot of ways, algorithms are also chasing the people.
That's true. Yeah, I like that.
Right? When you really think about it. Brother, this was incredible for you coming on onto the show, especially early on in the podcast. And so grateful that you did this, man. Thank you so much for doing it.
I've had such a great chat. Thank you for inviting me on. I love it, man. And what you guys are doing is incredible. I absolutely love it. And I'm honored to be a part of it. So
absolutely. And it's a journey, so you're welcome back on anytime. And looking forward to it.
What's going to be part 2?
Right?
What's going to be part 2, bro?
I know. It'll be interesting to see because we know like life changes daily, but it'll be interesting to see even 6 months from now, what's going on in 6 months to a year from now. So I love the concept of, since it's a constant journey, it'll be interesting to bring on part 2, what we can do with part 2.
Dude.
You know what I mean?
I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm up.
So
it's been great chatting, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everybody listening, at Youngr, YOUNGR _music. So no E on Insta, Facebook, Youngr Music. Again, no E, Youngr Music. Maybe with the underscore, maybe not. But if you Google the man, 100 million plus streams, you're going to find him. So, and then of course, we'll include it all in the show notes for everybody listening. So you can easily find like all of his profiles and everything. So please, you can always revert back here. And just, for Youngr coming on, just so grateful. Please reach out. He's very much into his fan base. He's very much into the connection. That's really how we all grow. And also just, really have a relationship with our art. So really appreciate, having you guys check him out. And just, thank you guys for tuning in. We're really, just really getting started and really beginning. And, want to just say thank you to Youngr, to all of you guys listening. You can follow me at Matt Gottesman on Instagram. You can follow Youngr. You can connect with both of us if you got any requests or feedback or anything like that. thank you truly for tuning into On Top of the Covers. It means so much to us. And really, we're redefining all the people contributing to the culture of music. And that's really what we're here to do. So please follow along on the journey. You can follow us along on Orlove Entertainment on YouTube. Feel free to leave us that 5-star written review on Apple. It helps expand our show, right? We got to always let people know that. And same for Youngr, please, reach out to him, let him know, give him feedback. If you're only going to give him ratings and reviews, they can only be of the highest caliber, 5 stars. Otherwise, just, otherwise just kind of, right. Otherwise just kind of move, right. Just maybe just a little high five or a little. So thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Youngr, for being on. Really appreciate it, man.
Amazing. Thank you, man. Thank you.